Last week, I put out a video comparing what I consider to be 4 of the best linear fusion rifles in Destiny 2 for endgame PvE. The goal being to get a better idea of each one's best possible DPS, aka damage per second, and then recommend which one players should bring into any given raid. Unfortunately, I realized way too late that I'm actually an idiot and made a fairly large mistake. Now, I did put up both a community post and a pinned comment pointing out the details of said mistake, but after digging further, it turns out I made another different mistake in both the post and pinned comment as well. Looking grim, right? But like my boy Bob Ross will tell you in old reruns on PBS,
we don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
And that's because through these errors, I learned even more about linear fusion rifles than I ever wanted to. Today, we're not only going to cover what mistakes I made, but also give you updated info, really more than you need, but I'm here to deliver, god damn it. Also, side note, I now hate linear fusion rifle testing more than shotgun testing, and no, I'm not kidding. Quick note, before we dive in, you might want to check out the first video if you haven't seen it yet, or you may be a little bit lost today. Either way, I'll try to explain things in the most simple way that I can. Here's my first mistake. In my original linear fusion video, I mentioned that the Taipan-4FR has a faster charge time by default than the Reed's Regret and the Cataclysmic. Yeah, that isn't true. The reason that thought burrowed its way into my brain is because here, look at my Taipan linear. The Cataclysmic and the Reed both have a charge time of 533, and my Taipan has a 500 charge time flat. I couldn't be mistaken because I double checked column 2, and there's no sign of accelerated coils anywhere to be found. The weapon also doesn't have a masterwork, so therefore the default charge time has gotta be 500, right? Wrong! I forgot that I had crafted my Taipan LFR at the Enclave, and when doing so, I originally fitted it with a charge time frame, different than a masterwork, mind you, reducing the overall charge time of the weapon. And even though when inspecting my Taipan, it doesn't show or remind you anywhere on the gun that you fitted it with a charge time frame, it's still there on the weapon. You just kinda have to remember that you made it that way, which is mildly frustrating, but completely on me. Therefore, when comparing overall DPS numbers, my final assessment on the Taipan numbers were not necessarily wrong, but sorta misguided. And here's another mistake that I made. In the follow-up community post on YouTube, I mentioned that because I'd forgotten that my Taipan had a charge time frame incorrectly written as a masterwork, I inadvertently showed what the numbers would look like if I had fitted the gun with accelerated coils. Also, not correct. This is where some of you may get a headache. Lord knows I did. In D2, when you swap back and forth between a perk like accelerated coils and column 2 to any other perk, you'll notice that the charge time number on the weapon doesn't change. That is a confirmed visual bug. However, I mistakenly assumed, oh, well, if my Taipan has a charge time frame, that's probably the exact same thing as giving it accelerated coils minus the visual bug. Also not correct. While accelerated coils and liquid coils do affect your linear charge time and damage output, it's a scalar change. And yes, even though the number doesn't change on the weapon inspection screen, it does in fact change in game. A charge time frame, like the one you can put on a Taipan-4FR, also shortens your charge time, but is different than accelerated coils, meaning yeah, accelerated coils and a charge time frame can stack together. I'm really trying to keep this simple, but that means there are actually 6 different ways we can measure both charge time and damage per shot on the Taipan-4FR. Those being 1. Charge time frame and accelerated coils, option 2. Charge time frame by itself, option 3. Charge time frame and liquid coils, option 4. Any other frame and accelerated coils, option 5. Any other frame by itself, and option 6, any other frame and liquid coils. Christ. Apparently, what I showed you in my original linear video was option 2, a charge time frame by itself on the Taipan-4FR, which is fine to show, I guess, but the whole point of the original video was to compare the best DPS options on each weapon. So, was option 2 on the Taipan the quote best possible option to show? Nope. Okay, to recap, there's 6 rate of fire options for the Taipan, and I only showed 1. So for this video that you're watching now, I went back into a dungeon to compare all the rate of fire options, and with only 1 Taipan available to me. That means that every time I did this, I had to go back to the Enclave and recraft my mother Taipan. Needless to say, I'm pretty broke right now in the crafting department, but I wanted to be accurate. By the way, in the original LFR video, I mentioned I'd simulated firing off 10 shots in a row by splicing footage together in Premiere Pro, which should be fine, but I figured this time I would actually get some non-spliced footage by shooting some rando dungeon boss with the boys. Now, one thing I mentioned in the original video, which remains hardcore true, human error is always going to be a thing. It's very difficult to measure rate of fire with 100% accuracy on a linear fusion rifle. That being said, if I am off, it's probably by frames at best, so nothing to lose sleep over. After getting the rate of fire for 10 shots on all 6 different charge times of the Taipan, I went back to Carl the Cabal and got all 6 damage numbers. Why Carl? Well, I used him in the OG video and I wanted to keep it apples to apples. Finally, with both the rate of fire time and the total damage per shot of the Taipan with firing line active, of course, I can use basic math and calculate the DPS. Okay, remember the 6 methods of different levels of charge time on the Taipan? Well, here are the corresponding DPS numbers for each option. As some of you probably predicted, the version of the Taipan with both the charge time frame and accelerated coils together produced the highest overall DPS number at 72,474. If you're unaware, that's just how DPS kind of goes down for linears. Being able to pump out shots at a quicker rate of fire will give you a higher DPS. Granted, your damage per shot will be lower, but your DPS will be higher. Meaning, in theory, if you had unlimited time to shoot Oryx in his big dumb chest, whichever linear hit the hardest per shot would be your best option, but only in that land of make-believe where you have unlimited time. In the actual damage phase, where you have limited time, usually the quicker option is better because your DPS number is going to be higher. Now, in a perfect world, I would keep things fair and go back to mildly readjust other DPS numbers for the Cataclysmic, the Reed, and the Stormchaser. The goal being to compare their DPS numbers with the fastest rate of fire possible, like we've done here with the Taipan. Unfortunately, that can create problems. For example, if we put accelerated coils on Cataclysmic in column 2 to shorten the charge time to fire the weapon, we then miss out on enhanced battery. Without enhanced battery, the mag size of Cataclysmic drops to 5, and therefore when you shoot with both bait and switch and 4th times the charm, aka the god roll perks, you can only get off 7 shots before needing to reload, whereas with enhanced mag, you can fire off 10. Therefore, the best version of Cataclysmic IMO isn't with AC coils in column 2, but enhanced mag like we already showed in the first video. What I can do though, just to keep everything even, is just remeasure DPS using the Taipan's rate of fire that I recorded today. Specifically, Taipan mode number 5 out of 6, aka a standard 533 charge time with no accelerated or liquid coils. Do I need to do this? Not really, but it helps reduce the margin of error for calculating numbers today. Plug in a little math, bada bing, bada boom, 76,508 DPS. Hey, that's the exact same number I arrived at in the original video when using simulated rate of fire in Adobe Premiere. I guess my clip splicing was on the money there. Anyway, moving on to Reed's Regret. Now, I don't have a Reed with accelerated coils. However, we already have the rate of fire of a linear with 533 charge time and accelerated coils together. It's the exact same as Taipan fire rate option number 4, aka a standard 533 charge time frame with AC coils. And because both Taipan and Reed can take advantage of firing line, we have the exact same damage number already recorded too. Plug in a little math, bada bing, bada boom, 72,024 DPS. And again, that isn't the hardest hitting Reed's Regret, but the one that can put out the most damage in a limited window of time. Finally, we have Stormchaser. Because we're now comparing the fastest rate of fire for all 4 linears, I did need to re-record Storm's rate of fire and damage number under the effects of accelerated coils. And thank the goddamn Lord that my god roll Stormchaser just happened to have accelerated coils in column 2. I tell you, the Traveler took mercy on my pitiful soul with that blessing, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to finish this freaking video. Anyway, the damage per burst on a 533 charge time AC coils Stormchaser is 98,781. Unfortunately for Stormchaser, we can't measure 10 shots the way we can with the other 3 LFRs. Reason being, Stormchaser doesn't have triple tap, nor does it have the Vice Stinger origin trait. Stormchaser gets Clown cartridge, so I measured how fast it can empty 8 shots in the mag as opposed to 10. Not a perfect comparison, happen, but what are you going to do? Also, keep in mind, Stormchaser takes longer to fire because it puts out 3 shots per trigger pull, not just 1. Plug in math, beep, beep, boop, and you get 72,700 DPS. Not too shabby. Granted, you'll have to reload your Stormchaser before the other 3 LFRs, but still. And there you get your final DPS numbers across all 4 Linear Fusion Rifles. Booyah! And you know what the funny thing is? After all that re-recording and after all that numeric correcting, I still come to the same conclusion at the end of my original video. Yeah, Cataclysmic has the strongest DPS number, unshockingly, thanks in large part due to the fact that it can roll bait and switch, which is a stronger damage dealing perk than firing line. However, simulation is different than reality, meaning in real games, you mess up. No one is a perfect robot and players make mistakes all the time. For example, you could F up bait and switch in the heat of the moment and bam, all your extra damage goes right out the window. At the end of the day, the players who want to chase DPS perfection will go for Cataclysmic, and that's fine. For new and casual players though, my end-all be-all recommendation is the Taipan-4FR. Why? Because all you need to do is go to the Enclave, do a short quest, and bam, you can craft your own god roll in no time. No grinding trials, no grinding vow, no grinding duality. Your perfect DPS number might be lower than a god roll Cataclysmic, but hey, you get Viced Stinger as your origin trait, meaning you could, in theory, put out more damage than anybody else in your raid team in a short window of time, simply due to the fact that you rarely, if ever, need to reload. There, now all I have to do is fix the original thumbnail where I left little bits of unerased weapon in. You know what? Come to think of it, Cataclysmic, because it's the most annoying weapon to crop out in Photoshop for a thumbnail. By the way, you have no idea how long this correction video took to put together. I am literally begging you to go down and click the like button on today's video. Big thank you to those who do. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on stream.